2022, the year of Adam and Cockney John's Big Movie Podcast, by the way, launched in 2022. We've brought you as consistent episodes as possible through illness and through house moving and whatever else has happened. But we've been to the cinema quite a lot. Obviously, the first 6 months of the year, we went to the cinema together. We went to the cinema apart, and we've watched loads and loads of stuff. So what we're going to do on Adam and Cockney John's Big Movie Podcast this week is we are going to give you our top 3 movies of the year. So we're going to rank them 3 to 1. And then, you know, we'd love you to get involved on the Adam and Cockney John Big Movie Podcast Facebook page. If we've missed something, if it's a movie we've talked about that you're shocked's not in there, make sure you throw it in there. You might throw a film in that's in your top 3 and we may have not seen it. So it could be a great discussion topic in a couple of weeks. So let's throw it over to my good friend, Mr. Cockney John, in at 3rd place for your top movies of 2022.
All right, in at 3. Easy, Bros.
Great film.
Great, so funny. Such a good message, but just apart from that, just hilarious. It was so funny. Billy Eichner, I love Billy Eichner anyway. I think he's hilarious.
And we know he loves you.
He does love me.
If you listen to the end of last week's episode,
Billy Eichner's my boy.
Billy Eichner is a fan of Adam and Cockney John's Big Movie Podcast.
But yeah, that film just it had me because it's so good. It's like there's so many different things going on. It's a spoof of the Hallmark holiday films. Yeah, it is a Hallmark holiday film. Yeah, it's got some just laugh out loud, like bent over double laughing. And then all of a sudden it's got you really thinking about things. Yeah. And it does all that within like 3 minutes. It's a bit of a roller coaster film. Absolutely amazing. Just one of the funniest films I've seen.
Could not agree more. Amazingly written, amazingly acted, great cast. Like you said, a great message, and an all-round fantastic film. And I don't think as many people have seen it as they should have. Yeah. So hopefully, when it becomes available on any streaming service or things like that,
I think it's going to be one of them that will blow up once it hits the streaming.
Yeah, it'll be a grower for sure. I know my brother watched it. I kind of told him, that we went to watch Bros a couple of months ago, and said to him, you need to watch it. And he watched it, and he messaged me and said, yeah, Bros is absolutely top draw. Fantastic. In at 3 for me, and I struggled with this because I was kind of going through 2022, and I had some standouts, and then I thought, no, I can't put that in there. No, I can't put that in there. I mean, there's honourable mentions all over the place. Now, Bros, for example, I knew you were picking Bros, so I wanted to kind of mix it up a little bit. I didn't want just 2 identical lists, because there's films that we've both loved. So I thought I'd go a little bit different. In at 3rd place for me is, it came out earlier in the year, and I think it's just become available on Sky Movies, and it is The Batman. Okay, so The Batman, directed by Matt Reeves, obviously starring Robert Pattinson in the main role as Bruce Wayne. I have to say I went in, a little bit like, the Christopher Nolan trilogy.
Yeah.
This kind of thing happens a lot where they bring it back, and you obviously had the Ben Affleck stuff after it. Batman, Superman, wasn't a massive fan. Justice League, and I thought the Batman was absolutely brilliant. Amazing villains in it. It was dark as well. It was probably.
See, I haven't seen it.
Well, this is the thing. I know you haven't seen it, and this is why I'm just leaving a little bit of bait out there and want you to jump at it.
Yeah.
I took my dad to see this earlier in the year, and I have to say it was one of those nights as well. I'm sure it was like a Tuesday night. I was well tired, and I was thinking, and it's quite a long film, to be fair. Let me find out. Yeah, it's literally 3 hours. And I was a bit like, 3 hours is going to be tough here, but it absolutely gripped me. And Robert Pattinson, I mean, literally, what a role to take on. And he's had, the Twilight films where he's best known. But he absolutely smashes it out of the park. Like a younger version of Bruce Wayne. So yeah, the Batman, if you haven't seen it yet, maybe if you're a bit skeptical, Robert Pattinson, or the fact that you love the Dark Knight trilogy, I definitely think it's worth a go. And then you've got Colin Farrell in it as like the Penguin character. Yeah, and he is, you can't recognise him. It's crazy. Like my dad at the end of the film when it came up, like Colin Farrell, he was like, who's he? And I was like, he's the Penguin. And he had no idea.
Did Big Mike like it?
Loved it, yeah. He I think he loved that Dark Knight trilogy so much. I think he went in a bit like, I'm not so sure, but it was it was a bit different, but it like very dark, and I think it was very, I just think it was very, very well done. Maybe a tad long. 3 hours is a long time in it, but
yeah.
But it never felt like, oh god, when's this going to end? It was top draw. So I highly recommend. Well, you need to watch it, mate.
Yeah.
You know, you literally do a movie podcast and you've not seen one of the biggest releases of the year. But in all fairness, we weren't doing the podcast when the Batman came out, so you are let off there.
And I've got a free film though on Sky Store, so I think
it's on Sky Movies.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
right. I'll
on,
just
like,
get it.
available on Sky Movies. So, in at number 2, Cockney John's top 3 of the year.
Oh, nah. This is a film that I knew what I was getting. I got what I was expecting, and I was happy the whole way through. Bullet Train. Brad Pitt.
Train.
Absolutely smashed it with this film. It's ridiculous story, stupid action sequences, but just great fun. Like there's so many inventive ways to kill people as seen in this film. It is absolutely brilliant, and the list of bad guys is just every single one of them's fantastic, and it's hilarious as well.
Yeah,
so
could not agree more. I mean, it's funny with Bullet Train. It was kind of going off the cinemas, wasn't it? And we'd just been given our cinema passes to obviously do this podcast through Dad's Net. Huge shout out. And we went to we saw a random. It was like the last showing, and we just were like, oh, should we go and watch Bullet Train? We'd not even started recording yet, and I remember we both walked out of it like that was mint, that was quality. And Brad Pitt, he's
ridiculous, isn't he? He's ridiculous. So everything he's in, he's good. He's. I don't think I've seen him in anything bad. He's the sort of actor where it doesn't matter what the film is, just knowing that he's in it. He's a bit like Leo.
Yeah.
I'll just be happy to watch it regardless.
Yeah, and I
don't need to know anything else.
There's levels to being cool, and I think Brad Pitt is just.
He's up there with me, isn't he?
Guys. Look, it's New Year's Eve. That's the overstatement of 2022.
What do you think he's doing on New Year's Eve? Do you think he's recording a podcast?
I'd like to tell you what Brad Pitt will probably be doing on New Year's Eve, but I can't. This is a family-friendly podcast. So, in at number 2 for me is a movie. Obviously, I do the other podcast with my brother Lee, 2 Mr. P's, and we were on tour this year doing shows nearly every weekend, and on one long stint we started going to the pictures in between shows, and he was a massive fan of a music legend when he was younger, so I booked us to go and watch Elvis. The Baz Luhrmann, I'm right in thinking Baz Luhrmann, aren't I? Baz Luhrmann, Tom Hanks is in it. It is fantastic. It is honestly brilliant. And the biggest shout out, I'd say performance of the year, which we're not going to do a category for because there's quite a there's quite a top. But Austin Butler as Elvis Presley in the movie Elvis is one of the greatest. If he does not get the Oscar nod, then there's no justice. Especially when you think Freddie Mercury. Is it Rami Malek?
Rami Malek,
He got the nod, didn't he? And he was brilliant, don't get me wrong, but Austin Butler was outrageous. And the whole film... Now, I'm not the biggest Baz Luhrmann fan, personally. I've not seen that many of his films, but the ones I have seen, I've always thought they're a little bit too... Sometimes a bit too pretentious, a bit, look how posh we are. And to be fair, Elvis was just mega. It was brilliant. And I think alongside the fact that I actually really like Elvis Presley's music anyway.
Right,
My brother used to play it on repeat when I was younger. Yeah, great film. Great film. And I know my brother took his kids and my mum and dad to watch it a week after we'd already gone. He was a huge fan. So yeah, in at number 2.
Did Lee give a little rendition? Did he get up and join in?
No, but it's a bit cringy when you think about it. Like, we've told this story before, but if you've not heard it, we moved schools. My brother was in year 4, and then my other brother was in year 2, and then I was in reception. And we moved schools, and on the first day, my mum got asked, like, oh, what are the boys into? And obviously my mum was like, oh, Adam loves his football, Ryan loves his football, and Lee loves Elvis Presley. He does an Elvis impersonation. So the year 4 teacher told my brother to bring his outfit in the next day, and he basically made him walk round every class performing blue suede shoes, right?
What an introduction to a new school.
I know. He got brought into my class, and I'm there trying to make an impression with the boys. And he's like, oh, this is the new boy, Lee Parkinson. He's going to just do this blue suede shoes. So he's there on this table going like, doing all the shaking and all the boys. And then this kid's like, is that your brother? I'm like, nah, I've never seen him before in my life. But no, highly recommend. I think this is 2 solid lists so far from us. And if you haven't seen any on it, watch it. Let us know in the group. I love after the Christmas episode that we did, so many people got involved with the chat. There was people who had never seen Miracle on 34th Street who watched it for the first time. And I think that's what makes all of this well worthwhile, is if you can throw a movie shout out there and people end up watching it and enjoying it, you're doing something right. So Here we go. The big moment, top movie of the year. Mr. Cockney John, what are you saying?
Now this one, I can't believe it. I was not up for it at all, and it's just incredible. The Woman King.
Yes, I knew it. When I said to you, King. Let's go and watch The Woman King, you were like, oh, bruv, I'm not so sure. I remember
it's one of the best films I've ever seen. It's amazing. It just has you gripped from the second it starts. It's got the best fight scenes in, probably, it's up there with John Wick. I actually think they're better than John Wick because they're more realistic. It's more visceral than something like John Wick. But the women in it, I mean, Lashana Lynch, I was going on about her in the original review, but my God, her character is just so incredibly strong and tough and fucking hard. Do you know what I mean?
I love how much you tried not to swear there. You were trying, in your brain, come on, think of something. And then you were just like, oh, don't matter, I'm saying it. She deserves it.
But that's the only way to describe her character. Well, all the characters in it, but for me, it was Lashana Lynch that really stood out in that film.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was, I know we both came out of that and we were both blown away. It was a really, really top draw film. Hopefully, it's reflected in an Oscar nod for Viola Davis. Who
I really hope so.
She was fantastic in it. But yeah, three great choices.
They did everything in that film. They did. All the barefoot, all the landing on their knees, the slamming against the wall, everything. They just did it. They wanted it to be as realistic as possible. So when you see pain on their face, it's because they were in pain. It's
because they actually hurt themselves. Great top
film.
3 there, mate. I highly recommend all 3 of Cockney John's choices. In at number 1 for me, and I don't think this is going to be a surprise for anyone who has listened to any of these movie podcasts, because I'm pretty sure I've mentioned it on nearly every single one.
Hang on, can I guess?
Nah.
It's not Lyle
To be fair, Lyle Crocodile is probably top 5, but it's not making top 3. So on the day of release, I went to watch this in 4DX, which, if you don't know, it's where your chair moves, you get hit with rain and wind, and it's amazing. It's literally like a 2-hour ride. Loved it so much. Like, it was one of the greatest cinema experiences I've ever had. Taking me back to my 1998 Armageddon visit. Went straight home, said to my wife, right, my mum and dad are looking after the kids next week. I'm taking you to see this. So then we went with my wife. She loved it. I loved it even more just because I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then I messaged you and said, have you seen it yet? And you were like, nah. And I was like, right, I've booked it. Let's go. And that is Tom Cruise in Top Gun Maverick.
What a film. What a film.
What a film. I mean, I just want to give a shout out. The budget was $170 million.
Was
it? Its box office return was $1.4 billion. That shows just how unbelievable. And the greatest thing is, it was due for release before, or before COVID. And basically, Tom Cruise and the director fought and said, no, it needs to be a cinema release. It needs to be when things are back to normal. And I think that film, on its own, kind of, is it signified that the return of normality and cinema going? And because the first night I went to see it, the cinema was packed. People were there in aviators, glasses. It was insane. And the soundtrack, the action, the story, the cheesiness, the corniness, everything about it, I absolutely love. So much so that I'm actually planning. I'm taking my kids out for a couple of hours after we finish here. And then when I get home later on, I'm doing a bit more work on the house, and then I'm settling in to see
watching
the new
it
year
again.
With Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, you can call me a loser, whatever you want, but listen, I feel the need. But yeah,
Kim is in for a good night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, fast and quick.
Well,
so
like
yeah,
like the Woman King, they did all the stunts. They actually did, didn't they?
Yeah.
So when it looks like
those G's,
so when they're like passing out and stuff, that was because they just had a camera put in their face while they were doing the stunts.
Yeah,
and so it just showed what was happening to them. And again, I just really rate actors that are prepared to go that extra mile and do that.
Yeah, and you loved Top Gun Maverick as well.
Oh God. I mean,
the opening beat of the music, the nostalgia. I mean, I was a huge Top Gun fan, even though it came out before I was born. Obviously, growing up, watched it. My brother was a big fan. It was one of the table names at my wedding.
Yeah.
And yeah, just the sequel. It was so. It was talked about for years that there was going to be a sequel to it, and then it never kind of came off. And then the director of Top Gun sadly passed away, and you thought that was probably going to be the end of it. And then they've somehow made this, and it is. And a huge shout out to Miles Teller, who plays obviously Goose's son Rooster. What a performance! And the memes, the dancing on the beach, it's all just, that is my 2022. Top Gun Maverick is my 2022. Obviously alongside my kids, my wife, and my new house. So there you have it. Our top 3 movies of the year. My 3 was The Batman. Pardon me, The Batman. And then in number 2 was Elvis, and then at number 1 was Top Gun Maverick. Obviously, Cockney John, your 3 were?
Number 3, it was Bros. Number 2, Bullet Train. And number 1, The Woman King.
Amazing choices. Make sure you let us know your top 3, like I said, on Adam and Cockney John's Big Movie Podcast Facebook page.